This episode brought to you by Team Stripes Academy. Learn from some of the top officials in the world. Start today at teamstripesacademy.com.
You're listening to the Team Stripes Podcast, the podcast for hockey referees. Each show, we discuss the world of officiating and find out that not everything is in black and white.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Team Stripes Podcast. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Nat Swanson. Nat, what is up, my friend?
Hey, man, how you doing? Not a whole lot's up, just here for another episode, right?
Hell yeah. This is going to be a fun one. So we're going to jump right in. No shenanigans. Talking about other things. We can do that on the tail end. So joining us is BCHL Referee number 9, Eric Ruschin. What is
number
up,
9
Eric?
in your program, but number 1 in your heart?
Yes,
1.
absolutely.
Long time listener, first time caller. How's it going, guys?
Well, welcome to
Hey,
the
man.
program.
How's it going?
We're glad
Good.
you're a long time listener and a first time caller. So yeah, we're just jumping right in, man. So Eric and I have been like chat back and forth on Facebook for I couldn't tell you how long. And we was like, you know what? Just come on, man. Let's talk. There's a lot to talk about, especially with the league you're working for.
Yeah.
So
There's
we're
in
just gonna
Canada.
we're gonna go typical format, right? So
Yeah.
why'd you start reffing? When'd you start reffing?
I started really late. I didn't start till I was 27.
Okay.
Literally just started to make some extra money and kind of stay in hockey, and got a lot of positive feedback first year and started pushing my way through and just kept grinding until I got to junior A level.
Nice. Where did you start playing hockey? When did you start, or what level did you kind of get to when you were playing?
Started in Red Deer, Alberta, like most Canadian kids. My dad had me on skates at 3-4 years old on an outdoor
Well,
rink, freezing my toes off.
I thought you were born with skates on.
Yeah, pretty much. It hurts a lot for the females up here.
Yeah.
And we ended up getting a key to the outdoor shack, and we'd play until the lights went off, and then somebody would run back inside, flip the lights back on, and we'd play until some adult came out and said that they were ready to go to sleep next door and head home. And
Nice.
I stopped playing at 13. Tried to go back for my last year of midget to hang out with my buddies. Didn't have the love for playing anymore. Helped my dad coach my youngest sister for a couple of years, and then stopped skating until I moved down to Lethbridge and picked it up again at 27. Like I said, it was a long hiatus, and then I wish I would have started officiating in my teens instead of waiting so long, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. What made you come back? Right. So you're 27, you're established and you're like, you know what? I can skate. A little extra beer money would be awesome. Is that kind of how it worked out?
That, getting back into hockey, and I had worked on the rigs for 2 years and got fat and wanted to
Okay.
get back into shape.
Yeah. You're like,
And
man,
so
I've been.
if I can get paid to get back into shape, it's even better.
That's fair.
So-
That's
Oh,
fair.
absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. So what, all right. So tell everyone, so what are you working now? So how long you been with the BCHL? Like, what was that process? What was the process of getting into the BCHL? Like how did you get there?
So I started, my first year in the AJHL was 2017. I missed
Okay.
Cale McCarr by 1 year in Brooks, which is unfortunate.
Oh,
Because
boo.
apparently he was just dusting kids out there as a 17, 18-year-old.
That's awesome.
Started there, worked there for a couple of years, and then I got a phone call from Brad Lazarowicz, who's VP of officiating and player safety for the BCHL now. I guess it would have been 3 seasons ago, asking me if I wanted to work because Cranbrook, BC got an expansion BCHL team. And I am closer than almost every other center in the BCHL for them to bring officials in. So me and another referee got hired to go work out there. And then I've worked there the last 2 seasons for Brad, and with the BCHL going independent this year, he phoned and asked if I wanted to stay on with the league, and they've treated me really well and they're giving me some opportunities. And I said, absolutely. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, obviously we got to talk about that part of it, right?
But real quick,
we'll
right
get
before
there,
that, yeah, we'll get there real quick, right? So you didn't go. So you're one of the guys, like you're just a kind of an iron, working the iron league, right? So you're just kind of grinding away and didn't really go to any camps to get picked up, or just like, hey man, I'm just working the leagues, the best leagues that I can, in the area that I am, and the phone rings and you getting the call up, right? Like there's no.
So what happened with me, Dat, is starting at 27, I started aged out already of the development program for Hockey Canada.
Right.
Kind of the development system for Hockey Canada is you get identified by your regional and you get sent to what's called your zone camp at the time. And so your top 12, 16 officials from your zone, I'm in the South Zone of Alberta, would get sent in. At our time, we'd compete for 2 spots to go to what's called the Alberta Cup, which is second-year bantam 14-year-olds showcased in Alberta. And then from the Alberta Cup, you go to what's called the Alberta Development Camp. And then from the Alberta Development Camp, you have this option to go to the Officiating Program of Excellence. Like I said, I went to one zone camp at 28, got told I was too old to go through the development process. And I decided that I was just going to be so good that I would get opportunities that they couldn't deny.
That's
and
awesome.
I just grinded
That's
my
the
ass
way
off.
to do it.
Went into midget AAA. Worked the last home game of every playoff season that I worked in midget AAA, junior B, until they didn't really. Basically, the call on the zone was like, we have to give Eric an opportunity at the AJHL. He's earned it. He's worked so hard. Like, he's our top ranking guy. Like, he's got to be there.
Right.
And then in my first year of the AJHL, worked to the second round of playoffs. Second year, worked third round. Fourth full season, I was league finals. So
that's awesome.
And then, like I said, got the call from Brad. And at the time, I was able to work both leagues. So it was difficult managing 2 junior A schedules, and it was a lot of time away. But
yeah.
So.
And that's something that just goes to show, right? Like, if you work your ass off, it's gonna pay off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, if you're at any given rink on any night and you're going up and down the ice, working your tail off, someone's going to see you, and you're going to get to the point where they can't deny that, hey, this guy's good and we need him on the ice in our games.
Yeah, man. And that's something that I try to tell a lot of young guys here, because everyone wants to go to the combine, or everyone wants to go to, like, and on the American side into futures camp and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, guys, just, the best advice that I've gotten over the last 20 years is, guys, work the best hockey that you possibly can in your area and be really good at it.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong. I hold a little bit of a grudge in a lot of things, and I'm pretty upset that I never got the opportunity to do that stuff, because I see guys that I compared against within my zone, knowing that I pushed past them, getting those opportunities. And I'm like, well,
I trust me. I totally get that.
And I beat the current number 3 car in our 3-lap test at the only zone camp I went to. So take that, Schlenks.
Perfect. Right. Yeah. Perfect. Like the gauntlet's been thrown. But
as someone that also, like, I never got to go to futures, regional camp, any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Nose to the grindstone. I, went off to the ODP and whatever. So trust me, I totally get it. Right. Like, oh, we're not, too old, whatever. Well, you just, go out there and show that the hard work and the ethic and, learning the rules and just doing everything. Like, that's what gets you to the place you want to go.
Yeah. And it was a lot of time me sitting in rinks with high level guys, just asking questions, sitting there being like, hey, this situation, we had a university team. I'd just go to the university games and sit with guys that weren't working and be like, hey, this situation, what are you doing? What are you looking for here? Like, this guy's taking off. Are we taking off with him, or are we reading that, like, that defenseman's going to pinch the puck here, right? So,
right.
Yep. And then for a lot of our American officials that maybe not understand the Canadian junior system, right? So you have your major junior, which is your,
CHL,
OHL.
OHL, WHL, Q, and Western Hockey League for us, which would be equivalent to you guys having the USHL is what they come.
And then you
compare it to.
have, which is Junior A, but you also have other Junior A, which is your AJHL, BCHL.
So I was told that they've eliminated the Junior A classification for the CHL. It's now just the CHL. There's no longer Junior A. It used to be
So
that
it's
we
just
had
called the Canadian Hockey League.
major Junior A and Tier 2 Junior A, which would have been, like you said, BCHL, AJHL, Sask, Manitoba. Ontario has like 4 or 5 leagues. So
so like basically every province, more or less has its own top tier Junior A league.
yes, it's not like down there with the Null where you've got the divisions and stuff like that, and they play within other states. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, and that's something that also like kind of exists here. I know that for a while the USHL was saying, "Hey, we're just Tier 1. We're not Junior A, right?" Like there's
Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3.
Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, hey, Junior A doesn't. It's Tier 1, Junior, Tier 2, that kind of stuff.
It's just a different classification, right? Like our Tier 3 would be Junior B, right? So we've got a town in Coaldale, 15 minutes from where I live. And that would be like your NA3. Basically,
right? Yeah, well, and even our kind of single A stuff with like the Federal Prospects Hockey League and the Southern Pro League. I mean, those, if you look at what those teams are doing, they're a lot like what the major juniors are, where it's
more the like senior.
They'd be
type.
like senior up here.
Yeah, but I'm just saying like pay scale and stuff like that. Like when you're making $150 a week, that's.
You're making 150 for like Fed.
Yeah. Oh no, it's not that low. But
no, not for the referees. Not for the referees. Talking
I will say.
Hold on, stop. Our senior is like not even $100.
Oh wow!
Really? Wow.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
No way.
Yes.
Okay.
It might be 100 now.
And each town has a senior A team.
We've got 4 in our area right now.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
There may be some more. I don't know. We had a bunch of teams drop, and then a bunch of teams want to join back up, and it's wild up here, man.
I won't tell you what I won't tell you what guys get paid to ref down here in Michigan just for ACHA, but I'll tell you it's a lot more than just for the college club stuff. But
well, they got to spend all those bursaries somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Obviously, the college club circuit's wild enough as it is, right?
Oh, man, it's a lot of fun. I love it.
I just love the cage hangs that those guys rock out there.
Yep.
Like that picture we were talking about, Ross, that absolute fridge in Arizona with the cage hang.
Yep, with the cage hang looking like Frankie JJ with his
just
size, like
hammered slices between periods.
Hey, buddy, you look like you could go for a slice.
Put on some smoked meat, Frankie. I'm going to be in your kitchen all night.
Absolutely. Oh my God. Yeah. Like, and it's funny too, because like you sent me like the jerseys, like we go back and forth on that stuff too, and they get pretty creative in that college club.
So good.
So
and
good.
like those guys are paying for it too. Those aren't coming from the school, right? Those are all like those club guys are paying.
Yeah,
for the most part, yeah. Some schools support, but for the most part, those guys are paying.
Must be nice to have rich parents. I wish.
Right,
man. Yeah, or you're just going into hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. But you know what? To live your glory days at 20.
Yep.
Michael Scott and I declare bankruptcy.
Yeah,
say it.
perfect.
I declared it.
Yeah.
Oh man, so
awesome.
getting back kind of on track here with the BCHL. Obviously, right, they decided over the summer that they wanted to do their own thing.
Yeah.
And that obviously had some effects, because I know I've heard of these things over the years, like they call them outlaw leagues or whatever, that up in Canada, where if you're a guy that works for them, Hockey Canada is going to be like, adios. And that kind of happened to you guys. Well, I shouldn't say kind of. That's what happened to the officials in the BCHL. It was
Yeah,
basically, do you either come work for me, or you either come work for us, or you don't get to work anymore.
Yeah, and like the kicker is, right, this isn't the BCHL is not just some startup league. This is the 62nd year of operations for the BC Hockey League. So it's not some fly by night league. Like there's been a
it's
lot
a
of
legitimate
speculation
league.
that we don't have a rule. People saying we don't have a rule book, we don't have procedures, we don't have insurance. Like we've been part of creating all of those things. I've been on the phone call with the insurance guy, asked him questions because I need to know stuff with my son's medical condition about like how our insurance is going to work if I get injured on the ice. Do I have to exhaust my own insurance like I would have had to under Hockey Canada? And so we've got those assurances. This isn't some renegade league. Like this is 62 years. This is 4 or 5 years of the BCHL trying to work with Hockey Canada to not get to this point. And they just listening to guys from the board office talk about it, and they're still trying to work with them, quite honestly. Like they're still trying to allow, we're not shutting guys down from that work for the BCHL from going and working their minor hockey stuff. They still want to allow those guys to go work that because it's a lot of the senior officials in the trail area. There's 9 guys in the trail area that are all senior officials. Like that's huge ramifications. They're technically not allowed to go out and mentor these new officials anymore.
So what? So as you understand it, so what was the break, right? So from your kind of perspective, what
was the reasoning, right, for BCHL to do it?
Yeah, what was the like just as has been described to you, or as what you think, what do you
Hockey Canada for a long time has favored the major junior route. And the BCHL has proposed that it's not necessarily the best route for a lot of kids. You're seeing a lot more Canadian kids want to go the US college route. And they can't do that if they play major junior hockey, because major junior hockey in Canada to the NC2A is considered a professional hockey league.
Yep.
Right.
So they
makes sense.
made some, from my understanding, the way it was explained in our phone calls, is they made some proposals to Hockey Canada about how they could restructure the what we call the tier 2 junior A model to make it more inclusive for the kids that want to go that route instead.
Okay.
And as we all know, a lot of hockey is a lot of old boys club, right? And there's, until we get some
everywhere, right?
Some new blood in there, a lot of people are hesitant for change. Like, in all structures.
Well, that makes
right?
sense.
So,
it's especially when they're looking at it as a league point of view, saying, hey, we want to continue to provide this opportunity for guys to come through us and go maybe the D1 route and make some tweaks or whatever that could possibly benefit the players. And it's just one of those things, right? It's change. And maybe the people on the other side are like, whoa, change. No, this is the way we do it because this is the way we've always done it.
One of the issues that I know that they've had, and I've talked about it with some other guys, is if you're under 18, you're not allowed to play tier 2 junior A hockey outside of your province. So an Alberta kid couldn't go to BC and play back, etc.
Okay.
So they wanted to open that up because in major junior, you're allowed to do that. So a kid can get drafted out of BC, go to Manitoba and play as a 16-year-old in Manitoba. And they wanted to open that up because maybe there's a 16-year-old kid that wants to come out to BC because the BCHL graduates the most NC2A kids out of any, more than all the other major or tier 2 junior programs combined in Canada. The BCHL graduates the most. So they wanted to help open that pathway up for maybe some kids that wanted to explore that knew at 16 that that's the route that they wanted was NC2A. They're not interested in going major junior.
Yeah.
And I know that was one of the issues that they had going forward.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it obviously sounds like it all of it came down to a player development decision. That's really where it all came from. And the referees,
I'm sure that there's other things, Ross, but that like, I'm not on the board, right? I can't speak to that. That's just one of the issues that I know that they had brought forth to Hockey Canada.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you could find it. There's a memorandum out there that BC Hockey, I believe it was 2 years ago, put forward to Hockey Canada. It's like 30 some odd pages about proposals that they could make to make junior A hockey better.
It just just from what's been explained, what I was where I was going with this was, it just sounds like they had an idea for player development. and they couldn't get the two sides together, so they went and did their own thing. And it sucks that now the referees are the innocent bystanders in this, right? Like,
and players
you
as
guys,
well, right? Because
yeah,
players that step on the ice for the BCHL after September 30th can no longer go back to Hockey Canada freely. They have to apply to be reinstated back into Hockey Canada.
So not even like, hey, you have to wait a year or anything like that. Like,
well,
no, so,
no, they could sit out the year, Nate. But if they want, say you got some 16-year-old from out of province, gets real homesick, like, I can't do this, right? And he wants to go back and play with his buddies, play Junior B back in Ontario. He would have to apply to Hockey Canada to be reinstated back into the Hockey Canada
Oh,
system.
really? So he couldn't just decide, hey, December timeframe coming around, either A, he's not getting the ice time he thought, he gets injured, or B, like, man, I just want to go back home. He has to apply to come back. There's no kind of free.
And there's no guarantee that they accept his application either. It's not a guaranteed thing.
Wow.
Like we've had officials apply because they can't go and coach their kids right now. Hockey Canada is not allowing them to go and coach their kids' teams because they're working with the BCHL.
So that kind of answers my next question, where I'd say, like, hey, what happens if someone says, hey, I want to throw my hat in the ring for the BCHL and gets hired, but hey, you're a new guy, or you're a fill-in and you're going to work 1, 2, 3 games in a season. So let's say come Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving, or end of November, you've worked 1 game, but you're on the BCHL roster. Does that mean that you've got to apply to go back to Hockey Canada because you worked, 1 game in the BCHL?
So the first thing there is, thankfully, because this is the only hockey that we can work beyond another league that we can get into in a little bit later called the JPHL, which is like a minor hockey style development league. This is the only hockey that I'm allowed to work this year, basically. So we've got 57 officials on staff, and we've got 17 teams. So there's not going to be anybody that only gets 1 game come end of November.
Yeah.
So, all right.
I'm sitting.
So you guys are
right now. By the end of November, if my schedule falls in properly, I'll have about 17 games by the end of November, and that's taking weekends off to make sure that I'm home with my wife and kids. To do that kind of stuff too.
I mean, basically, it's just like we would call it here. You're a full-time referee for the BCHL, just kind of like the guys here that go full-time in the SP or the Coast or anything like that. You're basically a full-time pro hockey referee. I mean,
and that's one of the and that's one of the things that, like, a lot of guys might be concerned, or from the outside looking in, going, well, if the BCHL is breaking with Hockey Canada, the USHL, the North American Hockey League, they've got a lot more than 57 folks, right? So they've got plenty of folks that are going to work 1 or 2 games.
Yeah, and that was the big thing that was the big thing that we heard coming in, right? Is like, well, you've only got 57, like, you guys are going to have trouble staffing that. But again, they weren't thinking that this is the only hockey that a lot of these guys are going to be able to work. They're not going to get pulled away to work a Western League game in the last minute. They're not going to get pulled away to work a university game at the last minute. And we don't have a big wealth of guys that, say somebody goes down with an injury or somebody gets sick. Brad can't just sit there pulling like a midget AAA kid up to come work his very first game, right? So it's going to be a little bit touch and go that way. But again, we've got 57 guys that he's really happy with, that, like, on the calls, they all seem like great dudes. And the guys that I've met out of the trail area are fantastic guys. Like, we're going to get a lot of hockey. So
that's awesome.
I'll be interested to see how the BCHL works development, because, like, again, this is the first year, right? But so as year 3 and 4 rolls along, where it's like, hey, we need to start moving guys up and and moving guys in and moving guys up. I'd be interested to see kind of how that plays out, right?
So speaking to that, the other league, independent league that's coming through here, we've got what's called the HSL and the JPHL, and it's Junior Prospect Hockey League, and it's U18 stuff, U17, U16, all that kind of level. They've got their own officiating staff. They've been around for 5-6 years as well. I know that Brad has reached out to them because one of the directing officials on the HSL is the old 88 card, the largest human to ever step foot on NHL ice, Mike Civic.
Yes, sir.
And they were hired into the NHL at the same time. So there's a little bit of a camaraderie there, right?
Yeah.
And so we're going to be able, as BCHL officials, to go out and work JPHL showcase events and help mentor those next level of officials too, right? So
That's perfect.
so like we've got a U18 showcase coming up here in Lethbridge where I live now this weekend, and I'm going to work 3-4 games for the JPHL and go work with some officials there and see how they're doing. We've got a guy coming out of Cranbrook that is a linesman for the BCHL, and I'm going to work with him as a referee on the ice. For that, he did some like U18 AA stuff in Cranbrook when he was allowed to skate for BC Hockey. So, as far as I know, we're going to have those, and then hopefully, like, guys are going to see how things are going in the BCHL. Guys are going to see how we're getting treated in the BCHL, because we're getting treated really well by the league and by the officiating crews. So, like, guys are going to see it, and like maybe guys that are new coming up want to explore that avenue too, right? So
you're what it sounds like too, like you guys have the opportunity to become a destination league, meaning guys want to get there, especially if, you know, like with how you guys are being treated. Obviously you guys have a great boss, a guy that skated in the NHL for a very long time, and it's one of those things where now you guys are gonna, you know, you guys could potentially create a culture where the guys on the outside looking in are like, man, I really wish I could go do what they're doing.
Well, it's just, yeah, that's just it, right? Like, and I'm in a really advantageous spot too, where like Cranbrook is 3 hours for me, Trail's 6 hours. That's a bit of a haul, but Brad can use me in other centers, because for me to fly into Kelowna or to Abbotsford and work games in Surrey, Langley, and stuff like that, it's $350 round trip. It's almost the same price, right? So he can move me. I'm in a position where he can move me around as he sees fit and where he needs guys. So it's, and you're right. Like we get treated really well. Our pay scale is really nice. And it's, guys, I think are going to start to see how we're treated, the things that the league's doing with us and for us. And guys are going to start seeing that it's possibly a way to get to the next level.
Oh, absolutely. And I
like
know the newest NHL's hire just worked his last amateur game in the BCHL final last year in Grady Hamilton. And I was just going to say, without naming any of the names of anyone, I know you've told me you guys have some support from that top 3-letter league. So
you
guys are,
you can name them, right? Like our officiating mentor and managers this year, Kelly Sutherland, Jay Shearer, and Shane Hayer. So like,
well, there you go.
That's a lot of experience for us to draw from and get on Zoom calls and ask questions. Hey, how do you handle this, right? Kelly, what do we do when we forget to put our teeth in to make a call on the on TV?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you smile away and look like you're you took a puck for a living.
Love it.
It's I mean, and then you got Brad, right? Lazarowicz worked 1,800 games in the NHL, right? A lot, 30 years on the ice for him. So
and the staff at the top is there for sure. So let's talk about the league itself, because you guys got some really cool locations that you get to work in. Obviously you were just in Trail, and it's funny because
Great Orange Rink, Columbia River right out the back door. It's a phenomenal view.
Man, like you sent me that picture and I was like, wow, that's amazing.
And the best part is, Ross, is you look out the other side, so the direct opposite end, and you're basically going up a mountain the other direction. It's wild. It's great. The drive in there is going to be no fun when I got to make it in the winter. The snow tires are going to go work out. But driving in there like late fall, and to see that barn, the guy said like that barn, second round of playoffs, first round of playoffs, it just gets hopping because it's about 2,200 seats. They've got, I think they told me 2,600 capacity, and they just pack it out. So
for standing, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then some of the other locations, like I'm not too familiar with the teams in the league. I know Trail because this funny story. So my dad's college buddy somehow got his hands on some, I don't know if they're practice jerseys or game jerseys from the Trail Smoke Eaters from like the 60s, from when they won one of the world championships, because they have a few world championships.
61 I think is the last one where they were world champions.
and it's orange, and this thing has seen better days. I think it's
Everything's orange
wool.
there.
Like, so like I know of Trail because of the connection with that jersey, and we're trying to get one of the current ones for my dad. But talk about some of the other places, some of the other teams, like some of the fun stuff you've seen working that league.
Like, I've only been fortunate enough to work Cranbrook because our travel budget hasn't been huge up until and still not huge, right? But they expanded the travel budget because we've only got 57 officials this year. But like some of the barns you see there, like Penticton goes full dark with blue strobes when they score a goal. So and like talking to the boys that work there, you don't have to get numbers. It's basically an NHL off ice crew because they've been doing it for so long. You just go to the box, they tell you who they got, and it's there.
And you say yes.
Yeah. And you say, yep, sure. If that's who you got, that's who you got. I believe you. They'll go to the video. Like in the AJHL, it was the same way up in Okotoks. Like Okotoks literally has an NHL crew working that box. It's guys that worked for the Flames. So you roll up to the box. If you got the goal, you tell them the goal. I need help with the assists. They're like, don't worry about it. We got it. My very first game up there, their head of off ice is a guy named Tyler King who used to work in Brooks. So I formed a good relationship with him down there. And I roll into Okotoks and they're like, hey, we've got video replay here. If we've got something different for the assists, are you okay with us changing it? And I look at him, I said, is Kinger running your guys' off ice? And they said, yeah. And I said, he already knows that my answer is I don't give a shit. If you guys have the right numbers, I don't care. The scouts are going to see what they're going to see, and it doesn't affect my stat line. My stat line is penalties.
Yeah, so we don't get judged on memorization of goals and assists.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
So they just laughed and they said Kinger just won a bunch of money off of all of us because that's exactly what he said you'd say.
That's awesome.
So it's nice rolling into places like that. Like the off ice crew at Cranbrook is a bunch of old guys that were there when the Kootenay Ice was there. They got all kinds of stories about watching Mike Comrie play WHL hockey out there, Jared Stoll. So it's really good. Got a tour of the Trail Smoke Eaters whole facility last weekend, Ross, and like their owner just pumped a bunch of money into that building, and it is a class looking facility that they've got there.
That's great.
So
I mean, that's awesome. But dude, like looking at the map, this stuff. I mean, you're talking. There's a lot of opportunities. Get some travel budget. Get out to Vancouver. There's 2 or 3. I mean, 3 teams in and around Vancouver. You got Chilliwack.
Chill, Surrey, Coquitlam, Langley. Yeah. There's like 4 teams there. There's 3 on the island.
Which would just be such an awesome trip, right?
Powell River might be tough for me to get to because it's wild. You got to take 2 ferries to get to that location. They were at our little showcase and trail, and I was talking to their coach, and he's like, their travel budget is like $50,000 to $75,000 more than anyone else because if they got to come to the mainland, it's 2 ferries each way. Yeah.
At least, right? If they don't have an airplane, just get a little puddle, just get a little float plane, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Just ferry guys over 3 at a time. That's way cheaper.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's cool.
Yeah. So, but then like in the interior, you got Merritt, Penticton, Kelowna, Salmon Arm, Vernon, and they're all within like an hour of each other. So you get talking to the guys. It's like you get these cool little rivalries, like going into Penticton on a Friday night for a West K rivalry, and they've got full standing room, 5,000 people packed out in that barn, and it's like buses of guys from West K coming down.
Yep.
Coming down, getting rowdy, and it's
definitely fun when the
teams
are close.
Yeah.
Like back when I was in the SP, Macon and Columbus, Georgia. When Macon came in, Columbus was still in the SP. They're only a couple hours apart, so the fans would bus each way.
Yeah,
right? So you'd have fans of both teams, so that's very similar. In that case, there you got fans of both teams in the building, and it just makes it even more rowdy.
Well, and Penticton's got such a big building; it's like 4,500 seats in that thing. So like,
that's awesome.
It's a major junior rink, like. The Western League has looked at expansion into that place, but the V's are so entrenched there. That's one of the original 4 teams in the BCHL. Like them and Vernon are 2 original franchises in that league. So they're there for they've been there for 62 years, right? So longer, probably going back.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and the V's are like a class organization. The guy said, like, pre-game, you come out from the ref tunnel, and instead of it being all lit up so that the arena's dark, it's all blue lights. Like the V's are white, blue, black. So it's all blue lights running across the ceiling. So you're coming out full dark, blue lights everywhere. Like,
That's cool.
I'm really hoping that I can get a trip in there because I'm going to be pumped coming out of there. Just flying out of the tunnel. Hopefully, I don't forget the skate guards. Just bite it coming out.
don't trip over the
the carpet, like the
carpet.
The singer
for the anthem. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the Canucks. That was the Canucks anthem singer that year.
Yeah.
So yeah, no,
it just looks like an unreal circuit too, because right, you got the teams kind of clustered together. They're all in these small towns, and I can't imagine there's much to do on a Sudbury Saturday night.
PG is, well, like, look it up. Prince George is like 25,000 people, and they support a major junior team in the Cougars and the Spruce Kings. And it's like the guys that go up there and the guys that live up there say it's just unreal because it's just, you're right, it's a small town. There's nothing to do. We worked my first year in that league. We had a playoff series that outside of a final was the second longest bus ride that you could have in the league. It was 12 hours, Prince George to Cranbrook.
Oh my
for a
goodness.
First round playoff match. The only way it would have been longer is if they'd have played Wenatchee.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
So like, it's like to do that, to play junior hockey and do that is just crazy.
And they're bussing each way too.
They're bussing each way. They are on the iron lung. They need Walt punching holes in the front of that thing to make it look mean.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and like,
absolutely love it.
So first year we were in COVID protocol, and it was like they were maxing out ticket sales with COVID protocol. So it was like 2,200 in the Cranbrook Arena, roughly, is what they were saying. I missed game 6 because it didn't make sense for us to ship out for a single. And they said that they got like 3,500 in the rink for that game. And that the guys that were linesing that I'm friends with out there were texting me that they're like, we can't hear each other talk. It's just so crazy.
Wow. Love it.
So, yeah.
I love working in buildings like that. And especially like at that level too, right? The small town, the whole town supports the team. Junior hockey, the kids are, revved up to 11.
Oh, yeah. 11's more than 10. Spinal Tap style. They're just jumped up, ready to go. Like, first hit is always a big hit. There's no soft rub out in playoffs in junior hockey. It's just, let's pin the ears back and go, kids.
Dude, that's awesome. I mean, that reminds me of kind of, team is defunct, but Owatonna, Minnesota, so south of Minneapolis, first place I ever went to that had snowmobile parking, right? Owatonna is a town of like 1,500, and they had a 3,000 seat arena, and they would fill that thing on a Friday night. You're like, how does like double the amount of people from what, this it's a cow town in southern Minnesota, right? Yeah. I mean, that's just such a cool, it's the big draw, right? That's the big city. The guys are coming in from out of town. Like the guys with dual citizenship were saying, like, when they go down and work Wenatchee, the Wenatchee Wild used to just put on a show between periods. They have quads out in the middle of the ice whipping donuts.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds about right. Because like in the States with single A, whether it be the SP or the Fed or whatever, I couldn't tell you how many games I worked where it was like wiener dog race night or my God, what some of the things they would like, the sumo wrestling between periods.
They'd have people on the big wheels, like they have drunk people on the big wheels, like trying to race each other around the ice. Yeah, that kind of stuff. I mean, you get the Zam driver like 4 minutes to do the ice because they're trying to get a 15-minute show in between periods.
I think they went to dual Zambonis in Wenatchee just so that they could get it done, but it'll be interesting to see with them switching because they got the Winnipeg Ice this year shifted down from WHL to round out
now
16,
they're in the Western League. Yeah.
So
game stories, obviously, right? So any good ones from the BCHL? Any good ones from maybe the AJ?
AJ, I've got AJ, I had one of my favorite fights. I was up in Grand Prairie, which is way northeast of the province here. And I'm in there for a back-to-back, same two teams, Bonnyville and Grand Prairie. This was last year, 2 years ago? Last year. No, 2 years ago. And we're sitting up there, and two big boys, one's a rookie, one's a 19-year-old, and they're just giving each other the sticks in the corner. I'm far side, and I wheel over. And I'm like, fellas, we got each other both nights. So tonight you're either going to entertain me or we're going to sit for 10. And they just look at each other, look back at me, don't say a word, and they just both go ejecto on their gloves and just start punching. And I'm like, thank you. That's all I wanted.
Yeah.
And
Five
so
is less than 10.
They're just beating on each other. And the kid that's a rookie, the whole time he's just swinging over the top on this guy. So we come out the next night. He's back, and they're both back in the lineup. I'm like, hey, Glasser, I got told it was your first fight last night. He's like, yeah, it was. I was like, you did pretty good. He's like, thanks. I was like, do you want a pro tip, though? He's like, what's that? I was like, when they got a visor, punch up. And he's like, yeah, my hand's pretty cut up. I was like, you don't say. Are you sure about that?
That's great.
Yeah.
Love it.
And then it's just, you get, we had a coach from Canmore, Boris Rebelka, who'd been in the league for years, and they took an AJHL team over to Russia, and he was telling us stories for like a junior showcase tournament hosted by
boy.
Locomotive.
Wait. When was this? Right. So like taking them to Russia, but how long ago?
2017,
Long time or?
2018.
Oh, wow.
Before-
So fairly
Before all the major bullshit, but still
Okay.
like some of the Putin bullshit.
right. Yeah.
So they're over in Locomotive playing, and they get beat pretty good by Locomotive first game. And he's telling us a story at one of our officiating camps. And then we saw him later and talked to him in the hallway or whatever. And he was telling us a story about how they go into the final. So they lose that first game to Locomotive, and then they go through and they just start beating the wheels off of everybody playing hard hockey. And they get to the final, and Locomotive calls 5 of their junior kids that were on full KHL scholarships back to the junior team to play this final. And his assistant
Because they didn't want to lose.
Yes,
Yeah.
because they saw the train coming. And he's telling us this story about the other coach. He's like, this is bullshit. We got to go appeal this. We got to go talk. They can't dress these 5 kids. And Boris says he opens the curtain to the arena, points out to center ice, and Putin is sitting in the box.
Oh.
And he looks and he goes, you go appeal. I want to go home.
That's literally like
And-
Slapshot. It's like when the team in Slapshot's like, they're
Yeah.
like Oglethorpe, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Ogle-Tarp?
it's like,
my. Yeah. And
yeah,
so,
like, oh
and
boy.
so the assistant coach was the head coach at Bonnyville, who was also just a giant beauty. And he looked at him, he goes, silver medal's good. And they lost 5. I think they said they lost 5-1, but it was just like listening to the stories that he came back with from Russia were fantastic. Like, it's, yeah. Back when I was linesing, we did a junior B game one night that we had 268 minutes in penalties. If you include all the 10s, we had game misconducts for 2 coaches, 5 fights. I think I ate more punches than anybody that night because there was no clean breaks. I'm just diving in between guys, trying to protect guys that are going down on the ice. Like,
Oh, I love it.
I don't know if you guys have it up there or down there, but like we've got called match penalty on an official, right? And like you guys would call it like abusive official or something like that, right?
Like
Yeah.
a physical abuse.
Yeah,
or-
yeah.
Yeah.
So back in 2009, I'm taking my very first officiating clinic, right? And my instructor is sitting there and he's talking about how rare match penalty on an official is. 41 years. He's only ever had 2.
Okay.
So I get scheduled to work my very first game as a linesman, U18 A-level hockey. So it's decent. It's not fantastic. It's a good way to get your feet wet as an older guy and someone that can skate. We finish the game and the coach is going off the ice and we have to go. Our ref room is right beside this coach that has been screaming at the head referee the whole time. And this head referee was old then, and he had worked junior hockey maybe 35 years before.
Oh,
Great
wow.
guy, fantastic stories. He goes to tell the coach that he didn't appreciate the way that he had yelled at him during the game, and the coach starts jabbing him with his finger in the middle of the chest. I get to go back to day 2 of my clinic and explain to my clinician, are you sure that match penalties on officials are that rare? Because I'm 1 for 1. And
Oh
so
my
every
goodness.
time I'm in a clinic down here and I get that clinician, that story comes out. These are generally pretty rare, but listen to Eric's story real quick about how not rare it can be.
Yep.
So,
oh yeah, it does happen. We had one last year in an non USA hockey sanctioned tournament in Wesley Chapel, where a parent assaulted a referee. The Italian referee I was telling you about before we started recording, Eric, our buddy Luigi.
yeah.
He had thrown this guy's kid out, and he gets off the ice, and the parent just takes him out. So,
Jesus.
sometimes like that kind of stuff happens. This past weekend, University of Tampa was in Nashville playing Vanderbilt.
Yeah, that wonderful report that you sent me.
Yep. And the assistant coach for Vanderbilt didn't like a standalone major that was called. And it was honestly a borderline, like could have been a game or a DQ. But anywho, so he didn't like this call and decides, I'm going to make a monkey gesture at the referees.
Yeah, that's bad.
So he makes the monkey gesture. Then he throws a stick on the ice. And then on the way out, he gives everybody the double or the 2-finger salute.
What a guy. He's a real hero.
Yeah.
So
he showed you, Ross.
Yeah. Well, he showed our guys in Nashville, and like the guys up in Nashville aren't they're good referees. Like the gentleman up there, Keith Grooms, who runs the ship up there, he's done a hell of a job. But these guys are all damn good officials, and this coach decided to make himself look like an ass, so he got himself a little 4-game sussy for for his actions. So like you never know what you're gonna get. I mean, I've had in an SP game, I had a coach throw a water bottle at Curtis Marawelli and then jump on the ice.
Yeah.
And
what goes through their mind when that happens?
That's on YouTube. You can find that one on YouTube somewhere too.
No, that's a different one.
How are you going to catch me when I can skate away? That's my big question. Thankfully I've never had that happen, but like, what's a parent or like somebody gonna do that they're gonna come out on the ice? I've got skates on. Not only are you not gonna catch me, but if you do, I'm just gonna like C-cut and drag you around.
Yeah.
But the funniest part of that story was Jerome, the head coach of Columbus, had just had open heart surgery a couple months prior, so he's still rocking the zipper down his chest. He jumps on the ice. I see him. I go over to him. I grab him. Like, Jerome, you need to calm down, because if you have a heart attack right now, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah, like, I'm not giving you mouth to mouth.
Right, exactly.
So
I'm trying to get him encourage him to get off the ice. So finally he turns around. We walk by where the puck is. He looks at me, goes, Ross, I'm taking the fucking puck. So then
that
I
baseball coach that grabs first base.
Yeah. So I reached down. I reached down to grab the puck, and the son of a bitch beats me to it. And then he takes the puck, like, I'm taking my ball and going home.
The best thing is you should have just gone to the scores box, grabbed another one out of the cooler, and been like, "You want a second? You need a pair?" Just start throwing more pucks at him. Start
like,
launching.
Give the goalie this one.
But then the best part of the story was, so we go to line up for the face-off, and he's standing in the corner by the door where he just left, and we're like, hey, you got to go. So he leaves. A few minutes later, we see him up in the stands. He's got a ticket in his hands.
Wait out. Hey, man, you can't kick me out. I bought a ticket.
That's
a creative solution to a problem. He
Hey,
figured out a
modern
way around
solutions require modern
Modern-
problems.
Yeah, modern
modern
problems
problems
require modern solutions. You can't even be angry at that point, right? You guys got to be like, okay, right?
That's
Well,
just
I
turn
mean, you
around.
paid your, yeah.
Now, whether or not he bought the ticket or if he got it, one of the comp ones that was sitting in the locker room, but still.
I mean, so whatever, well played, right? Like that's worth at
He
least
showed
like a salute and
you.
a beer,
Yeah, you got that one. Come down to the
Yep.
room after we got some White Claws.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love the guy. So like anytime I've seen him over the years, he's just an absolutely great dude.
Oh, man.
Man, good stories. Good stories. Let's see. Other than that, like, when do you guys get? Obviously, you went going last weekend, right? Or you got going last weekend. You had your
season,
showcase and trail.
Last season it's a preseason showcase, so 4 teams. It worked out really well because it's like 4 of the hardest teams for guys to get to. So Laz was in the arena that week, meeting with all the teams, going over our rule book, going over all that kind of stuff, letting them ask questions because we cleaned up our rule book. We're not going directly off Hockey Canada. We got kind of like a hybrid Hockey Canada NC2A because that's where we're kind of graduating the guys. And then Thursday or Friday, it kicks off, and BCHL is underway. Game
That's
1,
awesome.
regular season, puck drops. So
And then when's your first regular season game?
my first regular season games are set up October 6th, 7th in Cranbrook. I get to go see Merritt back to back. So, and then it'll be all right. Like I was saying last week to some of the guys, it felt like mid-season hockey already. It was fast. So the teams in the BCHL this year are allowed 2 Euros over as well, and they were good. Like Prince George has a 17-year-old Euro that's already committed to an NC2A scholarship somewhere in the States too, and he's a funny kid, man. He was like asking questions, and I looked at him. I was like, you know what? You're asking questions that you know the answer to. And they've got that in double IHF because I got buddies that ref in Europe and we talk rule books all the time. And he's like, oh, okay, you got me. We're good. And we just joked around the rest of the time.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Love it. Well, Eric, this has been an absolute blast. We'll definitely have you back on, maybe
100%.
Maybe in the dog days of the season, and hopefully you'll be rocking the killer mustache that you can grow.
The Don Van Massenhoven approved facial hair.
Man, get that with like more curly cues, right? Like just old school aviator,
Both my wife and my daughter hate it, so it's purely a hockey thing.
Absolutely.
So we'll probably roll out game 1 and 2 in Cranbrook because it's back to back, and I'll keep it and then I'll shave it and then grow it back in November for the Movember special, and then once playoff time comes around, it stays until playoffs are over. It's the only playoff beard we're allowed to have.
Well, there you go. Nothing wrong with a playoff mustache.
No, and it's all good. The boys out in Cranbrook last year when I rolled out, they're like, "Oh, that's so good," and one of them was like 18-year-old, and I swear that kid could have grown a full beard in about 2 hours if he felt like it. He just had some of the darkest facial hair I've ever seen. Just bugging him. Silsey, do you shave between periods? Like, how do you keep that down? He's like, what are you talking about? I was like,
I work with a guy now that has like the most epic mustache that literally, we always ask him like, dude, do you spend like 20 minutes in the shower, like 3 minutes for yourself and 17 minutes to make sure that you soap, you condition, you get that just epic mustache. He puts Sam Lloyd to shame, I mean, it's just like, yeah, but a good mustache is worth it. I mean, you've got Movember, but then you've got,
mustache March with the
mustache March, right? But you can always you can you can pre-game.
January.
Yeah, right. January, fabulous mustache February, right? Like you can just make up. We can just keep going, right? So
it's all there.
Yeah.
No, it's like I said, I used to have a really great beard back when I was starting, and then I got selected to work one kind of evaluation level tournament, and I was talking to some of the guys. I was like, man, do you think I need to shave my beard? And they just looked at me and they said, how many professional officials do you see with facial hair?
0.
And it's just like,
Yeah. Well, I'll say this, man. If your facial hair looks good, right? Like,
no,
sure,
agree 100%.
But there's a lot of
and-
folks out there who just kind of let it go super scraggle and not good. And you're like, yeah, man, you need to get rid of that.
No, I kept it. It was good, but it was just tight. And now I get a nice gray streak down my chin, which comes with being 41, and it's less awesome when my daughter's like, "Oh, you got some white hair there, Dad." I was like, "Yeah, thanks, because of you."
It's your fault. Yeah.
It's all your fault, kid.
Yeah.
It's all your fault.
Damn.
There's a reason, and you're 10-3. So
Yeah. Oh man.
Well, on that note, Eric, again, this has been awesome. Can't wait.
Absolutely.
We're definitely going to have you on again.
appreciate it, guys.
In the dog days of the season when you're 30 games deep into the year, and I'm sure you'll have some good BCHL.
6.5 hour car rides to a 3-hour center in Cranbrook because we're white knuckling it. We had one of those where we didn't get above 70 kilometers driving through the pass. We couldn't see anything. We're just looking at each other. We're like, we're just driving by field.
Boy.
We're just driving by field right now.
Dude, you're just following the 18-wheeler's lights in front of you, right? And you're like, if that guy goes off the road, we're going off the road too.
If we hear a rumble strip, we just know to correct a little bit back the other way.
Yeah.
There's one part where we come through from Lethbridge to the pass, to the Crow's Nest Pass, which actually is a little bit past the pass, and it's just like road cut right between two giant rocks, and it's off a lake. So when it freezes over and it snows and then the wind kicks up coming out of the west, it's just a whiteout. So you've got sheer rock wall one side, sheer rock wall the other side, and you're just like, let's go.
Just
autopilot take over. Yeah. Where's the Tesla when you need it? Just put it in auto drive and let it follow and hope that it still follows that road. GPS, please be updated.
Right.
So,
awesome. Safe travels, obviously.
Thanks. Yeah.
After
it's a little bit more difficult than traveling in Florida when it's like 90 degrees in December. But like we talked about, Ross,
whoa.
That humidity, I would.
Well, hold on, 80,
78.
Oh no! I have to put on a light spring jacket to go to Disney. Oh no!
Oh no! They still wear like full-on parkas at
So
it's
78.
If it drops
hilarious.
below 74, people are wearing parkas.
We were there one year. We took my daughter, and my wife does all the Disney races. Non-hockey story. We were there one year, and so my wife was running the marathon at the end of January there, and with wind chill, it was -6 Celsius, and they were ready to cancel the race. And we're sitting there, we're like, just put on a sweatshirt. You guys will be fine. Like, you're not going to die.
Dude, some of those halves, like one of my friends, it was within the last few years did it, and it was like, it was going to be below freezing.
Well, yeah.
That's what that is, right?
So it would have been 20. My daughter was born 2017. 2017 would have been the year. It was -6 for the full marathon. The half got canceled the day before because there was like massive lightning storm, which I get, like there's nothing there to protect you and somebody will die. And then the Gators just get free food.
Yep.
But then it was like we were in line to go be one of the princesses with my daughter, and it's like it was chilly, but it wasn't like cold. I had like a spring jacket on, and like I had to finally put on pants. And there's this family from Cuba with us in front of us, and they're talking, and they're like toque, gloves, big sweaters, jackets, and we're just like sitting there chilling. My daughter's in her little princess dress running around. They're like, "Aren't you guys cold?" We're like, it's like -40 back home, so no, we're good, thanks. So
like there is a solid 40-degree Celsius difference here. Like, we're good.
You're looking at them like
-40 is -40 regardless.
Right. So that's exactly it. Right. That's where they meet.
And it was like it was like a 50 degree Celsius temperature change, because I think it was like +10. But that humidity sucks. I die in that stuff. And so like it was a little bit chillier, but like I said, it was like, for us, it was like spring jacket. We had to buy my daughter a toque because she was getting cold, but she was like 4. But it was just like these people were like sitting there freezing their asses off. And we're like, okay, like it's cold,
Not
but like get
that
some hot
cold.
chocolate. Get some hot chocolate or some tea. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
You'll be okay.
So typical in Florida, man.
Yeah, just don't hop on Big
Eh.
Thunder Mountain and you'll be okay.
Yeah. And you're
That's
just looking at him like the meme with the guy with the rope around his neck looking over like first time.
First time, yeah. We did that too when I was playing rugby and we went to Scotland and it was like, Scotland. Then I went to a football game in Seattle in November and it was like 15 degrees or 12 degrees and raining in the football game. And I'm running around in shorts and a jacket and everybody in Seattle is like freezing their asses off. And they're like, what are you guys doing? I'm like, it's minus 20 back home, man. Like this is all good for me. This is a balmy spring weather right here. We're good.
Oh man.
That's awesome.
My little Florida butt would freeze right off.
Well, that's just it, right? Like you want to go up to Seattle for the showcase. Yeah, in October. He holds a showcase up at holds a showcase in Chilliwack in February. Ross isn't going to be asking me if you got enough staff.
I might.
He's gonna have his own little personal hand. He's got hand warmers stuffed everywhere.
I'll totally be the guy out there with gloves on, like
which and you will get absolutely lambasted. I've worked in rinks up here where if it's minus 35 Celsius outside, it's minus 40 Celsius inside because it's just a steel Quonset, man. It is so cold. And like, yeah. Speaking of the Seattle showcase, why do you guys hate letting Canadian referees come down and work?
That's
like
okay. So you need to direct all questions about that to the Department of State or whoever handles visas.
Oh my
Like,
god, dude, it's so bad.
It's wild because you guys can come up here no problem. Like we're using American officials in our league this year because they can come up and they can work lower mainland. Like Seattle to Vancouver is like 2 hours, I think. It's not that far. It's a pretty nice little drive.
Dude, it was a big deal even 15 or so years ago. We had some Canadian dudes come down to work the ODP, and that process was a huge pain in the ass. And I don't exactly know, and it all has to do with visas, right? It has to do with just being able to make money.
Well, I know Uncle Sam wants to check my bank account if I come down.
Yeah.
And because the thing is right, like ASU has a D1 school now. And it's only a 2.5 hour drive to Great Falls. And then it's just like a nice little hour and 15 and a half flight down to Phoenix. And like Phoenix in January sounds a lot better than
amazing
in like June or July.
Dude, my in-laws live in Phoenix, and I'll tell you right now, Phoenix in January is amazing.
Yeah,
amazing.
and like so my daughter and I took up golf, and I wouldn't mind swinging sticks in the middle of January when I can't do it here.
Dude, yeah, and then go work a game. You know, ASU gets more attendance than the Coyotes do anyway. Right?
Yeah,
so like,
and it's a zoo. Like the clips of that last year in Mullet is just a zoo, and I'm like, oh man. So I met is it Matt Leaf, right?
Yeah.
He was at the one Western League thing that I ever got invited to, and I was asking him because it was right after ASU got their D1 designation. I'm like, just out of curiosity, how does a Canadian get invited down to work this stuff? He's like, whoa, it's really hard. You got to do this, you got to do that. And I was like, but can we do it? That's my question.
I can, right? I mean, like,
can I do it?
Yeah, like Mike McCreary and Kurt Marawelli, like those guys, like prove that it can be done, right? Because I mean, they're Canadians. They also have connections, but they're Canadians. Who have been.
I think those guys are dual. I think Mike
are they dual?
Yeah.
The issue is like even worse. So I could get sponsored for a P1, but that's for a professional organization, right? Like that's how the Western League does it. Is because they're technically classified as a professional, they can get their Canadian guys down to the American division through their P1s. But it's like, man, so we got a real fortunate one of our officiating managers is Steve Peterowski out of the Big Ten there too. So, or Hockey East. So I'm gonna try and maybe reach out to him and be like, hey, just out of curiosity, like, can Canadians do this? Is there a pathway that we can do it? Like, I like Arizona. Arizona's pretty cool. Like there's less snakes in the winter. I deal with enough rattlesnakes up here.
Yeah. Oh man.
I live close to North Dakota. Like you can fly me into North Dakota too. I'd like to work a 17,000 seat college game with those guys going absolutely bonkers.
Oh yeah, I've heard some good stories about that building from Gino Jr. So
get hired, Ross. We'll go work an Air Force game together. Like
there you go. Well, I'm working on Junior to get me and Nat out to Colorado Springs, mainly because I want to work. I want to line with Nat, and I want to make all of the cadets call him Major Swanson while we're on.
Yeah. Dude,
They have to stand at the position of attention when they're talking.
Anytime I call them, I call a penalty. All I want to do is I want to call a penalty on them and then make them stand at attention and be like, "I'm sorry, an officer is speaking right now."
Get him a shirt that says Major Swanee, Swami, Swanee, Swanee, Samsonite.
Slippy Samsonite. Yes, yeah. Dude, I love it. Samson, man, I was way off.
Those are IOUs, sir. Those are
that's as good as money. That you might want to hang on to that one. That was a Lamborghini. You might want to
hang on to that one.
Yeah, that one's a Lamborghini. You wore 2 pairs of gloves this whole time.
You're going through the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah. Well, dude, we could talk all night.
Well, it's like a ref room, right? Like,
yeah, and that's
just sit there and do stepbrothers. Me and one of the guys that moved away from down here, we would literally look at each other and just do stepbrothers quotes in between every intermission. Show up to a game, open the door. We're here to fuck shit up.
Yeah, I feel like we're doing yeah. You wanted to go do karate in the garage? Yep.
Yeah. Did we just become best friends? Yep.
And it's even more fun to do it when you're on the ice. Do you want to play repeat?
We used to do low. There was another official that was here that moved away. We used to do low bones all the time on good penalty calls. Yes, sir. Good job. There. Little shores, little Letterkenny action.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
all right.
Well, we got to cut it off. Otherwise, we're just going to keep going.
Yeah.
So with that, this is the third attempt to wrap this up. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode.
There's an episode here somewhere. Yeah. Try not to laugh.
With BCHL referee Eric Ruschin. Eric, again, this was fun. We're going to do it again. Any closing thoughts?
No, we'll maybe we can get some guys from the BCHL on, and we'll get some good stories. Like, I know that there's some guys up in Prince George that I don't know if they're willing to share it, but like there's guys within the league that have tried to do this appeal process through Hockey Canada, and I'm sure that they'd love to just we can
and like I had said to you when we were chatting earlier today, like I would definitely love to get more guys from your league on, because honestly, since I've taken this podcast over, we haven't had many Canadians on, and we really want to start getting more guys from the Great White North to come on the podcast.
And it's wild because like you guys tell all your stories about how you work with guys from this section, right? And like the development program for Hockey Canada doesn't allow us to do that. Like, we don't work with guys from Ontario, we don't work with guys from the East Coast, none of that stuff. So it's for me,
it's just so different.
The first interprovincial connections that I've got to have is like going to BCHL and working with these guys. And like I said, just talking to them all through our rule book meetings and stuff, they all seem like really great guys. And the one girl we've got on staff they all seem really solid. So
awesome.
It'll be a fun year. It'll be nice challenges for everybody to work playoffs.
We at Team Stripes definitely wish the officials in the BCHL nothing but success and an absolutely amazing hockey season.
So it's like I said, it's fast. It should be good. It should be great hockey this year. So
hell yeah. Well, go out there and as you said, fuck shit up.
So. Take names.
Hopefully not the penalty calls. That's the goal, is to not fuck that shit up.
I mean, you know what? Yeah. But have fun.
Obviously, be the best team on the ice and always be undefeated.
Absolutely.
So, a guaranteed win night for me when I roll up.
Exactly. We never lose a game. So
haven't lost one yet.
Nat, anything?
I got nothing, man. This one speaks for itself, guys. So I hope everyone has a great evening or whatever you're doing when you're listening to this.
Yep. Well, everybody, thanks again for listening, and we will catch you all on the next episode of the Team Stripes podcast.
This episode brought to you by Team Stripes Academy. Learn from some of the top officials in the world. Start today at teamstripesacademy.com.
You're listening to the Team Stripes Podcast, the podcast for hockey referees. Each show, we discuss the world of officiating and find out that not everything is in black and white.